The girl in this story visits her dog's grave every single day. She brings a flower with her, but not just any kind of flower. The type of flower she brings has a secret meaning. Can you guess what it is? Our story begins with a young girl named Alara. She lived in a small house with her mother and father on the outskirts of town. It was an old house with peeling paint and a creaky porch swing. But for Alara, it was perfect. That was because it had a big garden and a large oak tree in the backyard. And under that tree was where Alara buried her dog, a golden retriever named Honey. Alara and Honey were the best of friends. They would spend all day playing in the garden or going on walks in the woods. But sadly, Honey had recently passed away. Alara was heartbroken. She cried for days. Her parents tried to cheer her up, but nothing worked. One day, Alara's mum suggested that they go to Honey's grave together. Alara hadn't been ready to visit the grave yet, but with her parents' support, she slowly began to feel better. As the days went by, she started spending more time outside, playing in the garden again. And when she felt strong enough, she began visiting Honey's grave. Every time she visited, Alara brought a flower with her. At first, her mom thought it was strange, but she didn't say anything. You see, Alara had always loved flowers, so it wasn't out of character for her to bring them to the grave. What was out of character, however, was the type of flower she was bringing. Every day, Alara brought a different flower to the grave. On Mondays, she brought tulips. On Tuesdays, lilies. On Wednesdays, roses. On Thursdays, sunflowers. And on Fridays, daisies. Each day a new flower until the weekend came around again and the cycle started anew. Alara's mom was very confused. Why did her daughter bring these specific types of flowers to the grave? She didn't understand it at first, but when she leaned in closer, she began to notice a pattern. You see, the flowers Alara was bringing spelled out a word when placed next to each other, in the order they were planted. On Mondays, the tulips were planted next to a small wooden sign that read H. On Tuesdays, the lilies were planted next to a small wooden sign that read E. On Wednesdays, the roses were planted next to a small wooden sign that read L. On Thursdays, the sunflowers were planted next to a small wooden sign that read O. And on Fridays, the daisies were planted next to a small wooden sign that read W. When the weekend came around again, the flowers spelled out the full name of Alara's dog, Hello. When Alara's mom realized what was happening, she couldn't help but smile. It was such a sweet thing her daughter was doing. She knew how much Alara missed her dog, so she decided to help her keep the memory of Honey alive. Every morning, Alara's mom would water the flowers and weed the garden while humming a cheerful tune. Then she would take a freshly picked flower from the garden and place it at the base of the oak tree. This way, no matter what day of the week it was, there would always be a flower at Honey's grave. Alara was so happy to see her beloved dog's name in flowers. It made her feel like Honey was still with her in a way. And even though it had been months since Honey had passed away, Alara continued to visit her grave every day, bringing a flower with her. The girl in this story visits her dog's grave every single day. She brings a flower with her, but not just any kind of flower. The type of flower she brings has a secret meaning. What do you think the meaning is? If you thought Alara brings the flowers to tell her dog she loves her, then you'd be correct. That is the meaning behind the story.